all information links back to the original album about hygiene that the Israels published. So here you have sun, light, and water. It's a theme that runs through the whole album: sun, light, and water. The part of the building always appears. This lady is in also from the albums. So the album comes in and out. This is about this in German means different forms of body. There's one very important one here. I think the first. You see here. Look. These are profiles I found in a newspaper around that time. Everything's based at the first 20 years of the last century. These profiles, it says here, die stupide, what a stupid person should the profile should look like. And this is the intellectual's profile. You remember that, of course, that the Nazis were always saying what Jewish noses looked like, and it was also the time of the colonies, what Africans would look like. And so this is remembering that unfortunate and sad part of transmission. Hygiene and sport. This is taken from the album, from the original album. I copied this, Hygiene Throughout the Ages, another part of the shop. Textiles I got from Liberty. Remember, do you know Liberty in London? They gave me some pieces of material for my project. I gathered from all over the place. I went to London, I went to New York, collecting material for this project. This is just paint, this one, for example. It says, this is Sauberkeit, cleanliness in German. I couldn't, by the way, my German is limited today, but it was even much more limited in those days. So, unfortunately, but I know what Sauberkeit means, you know, and there's this little kid having a bath. Ironing. I took adverts from different newspapers. This eye comes from the Hygiene Museum in Dresden. The Hygiene Museum in Dresden was created in 1911, and I think that might be the reason why the Israels chose to do an album in 1912, 1 year later, because of this big fair about hygiene. The first hygiene fair was in London, and I think this was the second one. Because hygiene was not, you know, people only knew that, for example, a few years before that you have to wash your hands when you go from one patient to another. Now, hygiene is an important subject. It's not just about bacteria. It's a way of life. And I think it's interesting to know how Judaism incorporated hygiene into rules of putting it as a religious rule, you know, separating milk and there are medical reasons to do this. This is hair. This is interesting. The question is that your hair is falling out. This is not. They were asking the same questions. That's the title. We asked the same questions in 1912 about hair, losing your hair. We're still doing that. 100 years later, they haven't really found the complete cure yet. This is something about a vibrator. You know, a sexual vibrator, and it was interesting that it was in papers already at that time. Then this I like. This is three women bringing them together. From this lady, I think, comes from Tahiti, and it's fashion together with the fashion of the time when the album, or just before the album, how women looked. And putting it in the same world, the symbolic round being the same world. And then I painted three women. She's looking at a mirror, and the material is from Art Hoffman, I think it was Hoffman, or no, Dagobert Pesch, this one. These are people who were designing how materials looked at that time. And so I put that in as well. These are other material. Look how the materials designed from early 1900s. Look at how modern they are. This is Hoffman, Sir Joseph Hoffman. And this is Josef Hoffmann. These were people who designed and were part of the Vienna Werkstätte. They all worked, collaborated in this organization. This is a map that I found in London, in a London Baedeker, London travel for visiting Berlin for 1912. Okay, there was this big map with all the shops in it. English people used to come to Berlin to shop. And I took out, the map was this size, I took it to a special place they made much bigger, and we made special photocopies of it. So inside the maps you can see where in Israel was and where some of the other shops were. And this is a letter I traced a man. I went to the Jewish in Fasanenstrasse, to the Jewish Jewish center there. Have you? In
Berlin.
In Berlin, the first one in the west side. And I went to the library there, and I found a book that had been done for the 100th year of a medical society. They reproduced from one of the albums. From the hygiene album. They reproduced one of the chapters for their 100th anniversary of the medical society, pediatrical medical society. And this man, I traced him. Unfortunately, he was very ill. The man who wrote the letter giving a copy of their. He donated a copy of their medical 100-year anniversary album to the library, and he mentions the philanthropic work of Natan Israel. This is the only letter I found when I did my project of somebody alive sort of recognizing them. But he unfortunately was very ill. I spoke to his wife, and the wife said, yes, of course you can use the letter. מאוד מרגש, אתה יודע. So I was working like a detective, I'm a detective. I had to trace him down to try and find where this guy went. They were in Frankfurt. מאוד מעניין. This is from the Pergamon Museum. This is the first. These are interesting. This is the first Röntgen, the first radio, X-rays, the first X-rays. I found. I went little by little, and you'll find it on the map here. And then this one is Berthold, and the address of the shop, and how it started, this little thing, and how it was much later. So you can see the development. This is how I saw a picture of how they used to present. They were specialized in materials, selling materials. So I made that there too. This is from. I was so lucky. One day I was walking an outside book sales. People come and sell old books, and there on the top of the pile, one woman had They used to make special Christmas edition for what you could buy at Christmas, just a few pages, bags and things like that. And this was sitting on top of the pile, and I remember that was 60 marks, and I had to have it, so I got that. And I mean, it was just such luck to be there that day.
So what was it about?
It's like a catalogue of what they were selling in their shop. Okay. That they had produced specially for Christmas in I think it's 1911 or something. And so from that catalogue, do you see this? This is also from it. This is from that catalogue. It's not a catalogue like I showed you that they published each year. It was a sales a few pages of sales, what they were selling in the shop. So this one I made for Christmas and